You reach for the phone on the kitchen wall this July, the one that's hung there since your kids were small, and there's nothing. No dial tone, just a dead line and a soft hiss. And the young man at the store tells you with a smile that it's gone for good. Here's what I learned after years spent close to how this business actually runs. The phone your parents used cost almost nothing to keep alive, kept working in a blackout, and was built to outlive the people who bought it. The one they handed you to replace it does none of those three things. And I'm telling you plainly, that was not an accident. They buried the truth that the old system was the better one, because a telephone that lasts 50 years doesn't sell you a new one every other spring. Before we're through, I'm going to lay a 1949 design from Western Electric on this table, a phone you can still get today for about the price of 2 lunches, and a federal program signed into law in 1985 that can put a working line in your hand for next to nothing, and every bit of it works in the house you are sitting in right this minute. I stood in a warehouse outside Kansas City one gray afternoon and watched a man feed a pallet of perfectly good telephones into a hydraulic crusher, and when I asked him why on earth they'd destroy equipment that still worked, he just shrugged and said, "Orders." That shrug is the whole story. Let me open the ledger and show you. Start with a question that should bother you more than it does. Why did your grandmother's phone still work when the power went out and the whole street went dark? You remember it. The lights die in a summer storm, the refrigerator goes quiet, and you pick up that heavy handset on the wall, and there it is, clear as a bell, the dial tone. It never occurred to anybody to be surprised by it because it always worked. Storm, ice, blackout, didn't matter. The phone lived on. Here's the thing they never explained to you. That old corded phone didn't run on the electricity in your house at all. It ran on power sent down the copper wire itself from the telephone company's central office, sometimes miles away. 48 volts of direct current, steady and quiet, backed by rooms full of batteries and diesel generators that the phone company was required to keep running no matter what. Your house could go black as midnight and that line stayed alive because it was fed from somewhere your local storm couldn't touch. That's not folklore. That's the design of the Bell system, built out over decades, and the crown jewel of it was a telephone called the Western Electric Model 500. It came out in 1949 and went into millions of American homes through the 1950s. No batteries in the phone. No plug in the wall for power. No screen, no updates, no account. You picked it up, you got a dial tone, you made your call. Drop it, kick it, spill coffee on it, and it kept working. I have handled Model 500s that were older than the man selling them, and they still rang true. And here is the part that ought to make your jaw tighten. Renting that phone from the phone company cost pennies a month, and the company kept it in repair for free because they owned it. When something went wrong, a man came out and fixed it or swapped it, no charge, because the whole system was built to last, not to be replaced. Now compare that to what's in your pocket or on your counter today. It needs power from the wall. It needs the internet. It needs an account, a password, a monthly bill, and a new one every couple of years when the old one mysteriously slows to a crawl. When the power dies, so does the phone. That's not progress in the direction of you. That's progress in the direction of their cash register. So the first receipt on the table is simple. The old phone was nearly free, nearly indestructible, and worked when you needed it most. Which raises the obvious question. If it was that good, where did it go? Because it didn't just fade away on its own. Somebody switched it off. And that's where this stops being nostalgia and starts being something that ought to make you angry. Here's what actually happened, and the dates matter, because I want you to see how recent this is. This wasn't your grandfather's era. This hit while you were watching. In February of 2022, one of the biggest carriers in the country shut down what they called their 3G network. The others followed within that same year. Now that sounds like harmless technical housekeeping until you understand what it really did. Millions of older Americans were using perfectly good, paid-for cell phones, simple flip phones, medical alert pendants, the button hanging around your mother's neck that calls for help if she falls. Overnight, a huge share of those devices were bricked, turned into paperweights, not because they broke, because the signal they depended on was switched off on purpose. And people got a letter, if they got anything at all, telling them they had to buy new equipment. I watched a woman in a phone store hold up her mother's medical alert button and ask the clerk if it still worked, and the clerk had to tell her no and that she'd need to buy a new system with a new monthly fee. The button was fine. The company had simply pulled the ground out from under it. But the 3G shutdown was the loud part. The quiet part is worse, and it's still going on right now, this summer. For years, the copper landline network, that reliable old system I just described, has been getting quietly retired. The carriers went to the regulators and got permission to stop maintaining the copper. In plain English, they were allowed to let it rot and push everyone onto internet-based phone service, the kind that runs through a little box that plugs into the wall. And when a company is allowed to stop repairing something, they stop repairing it. People in rural counties started reporting that when their copper line finally failed, nobody would come fix it. They were told the only option was the new service, the one that dies when the power dies. Think about who that hurts most. Not the young family with 3 smartphones and a backup battery. It hurts the 80-year-old widow on a fixed income out past the edge of town, the one who kept her landline precisely because it always worked, the one who needs it most in exactly the emergency where the new system fails. They took away the phone that survives the storm and replaced it with one that goes dark the moment the storm arrives, and here's the layer under that layer. When your phone service runs through the internet box and the power goes out, you might think you'll still get a few hours, maybe, if the box has a battery, and if that battery is charged, and if it hasn't quietly died of old age. But your cell service isn't the fortress either. The cell towers themselves run on batteries when the grid fails, and by rule those backups are only required to last a matter of hours, often around 8. After a big storm, once those tower batteries run flat, whole regions go silent. It has happened again and again in hurricanes and wildfires, and people have died because they couldn't call for help. The old copper system could run for days. The new system gives you hours, if you're lucky. The people who built the old system also left the tools to get its best parts back. And most of them are cheap, legal, and sitting within your reach today. Let me talk directly to you now. The one thinking this is fine for somebody with a workshop and money to burn, but not for you. Not in the house you already live in, on the income you already have. This next part is for you especially. You don't need to move, renovate, or spend real money. You need about 20 minutes and less than $50, and I'll walk you through every step. Here's the first thing, and it surprises almost everyone. If you still have any kind of home phone service, even the modern internet kind, a plain old corded telephone still works on it. Not a cordless phone, mind you. A cordless phone has a base that plugs into the wall for power. So when the power dies, the cordless dies with it, even if the line is fine. I mean a corded phone, the kind with the curly cord and the handset that hangs up on a hook. That phone draws what little power it needs right from the phone line. So step 1, go buy one corded phone. A brand new basic corded phone costs about $15 to $20 at any big store or online. Keep it in a drawer, still in the box if you like. Because the next time a cordless phone or an internet phone leaves you with dead silence during an outage, you plug that corded phone straight into the wall jack, and in many cases you'll get your dial tone back when nothing else in the house works. It's the single cheapest piece of insurance I know of, and almost nobody keeps one anymore. Your grandmother had one without even thinking about it. You have to choose it on purpose now, but it still works. Step 2 is a right you have that you were never told about, and this one genuinely made me shake my head when I dug it up. If your phone service now runs through one of those internet boxes, the company is required to offer you a backup battery for it. There are rules on the books that say the provider must make available a backup power option, and larger providers were pushed to offer one that carries you 8 hours and an extended one that carries you around 24 hours. Most people were never clearly told this exists. You have to ask for it. So call your provider and say the words, "I want the backup battery for my phone service." Some will give you one, some will sell you one cheap, some will point you to a small battery unit you can buy yourself for around $50 to $100 that snaps right in. Either way, that turns your fragile new phone back into something that survives the night. And that's the trade they made for you without asking. And then they called it an upgrade. But before I show you exactly how to take that reliability back, I want to tell you about something I put together for people who are tired of finding out too late. Everything I've laid out in this video, the buried history of the Bell system, the shutdown decisions, the federal programs they never told you about, and the complete checklist for rebuilding your own reliable phone setup at home. It's all documented and expanded in my books, Smart Foundations, Deep American, and The Full System. These aren't just a retelling of what's in the videos. They go deeper with the paper trail, the regulatory decisions, the names and dates, and the step-by-step guides written out so you can hand them to a family member and say, "Here, read this." You'll find the links in the description below. And if you've been sharing these videos with someone you care about, the books are the thing to send them next. Now let's get into the practical side, because knowing the trap is only half of it. Step 3 costs you nothing but a habit. Learn where your phone actually enters the house. That little gray box on the outside wall, usually near where the electric meter is. That's called the network interface. It has a test jack inside. If your phone ever goes dead, you can open that box, plug a corded phone directly into the test jack, and find out in 10 seconds whether the problem is inside your house or out on the company's line. That one trick has saved people from paying a service charge for a problem that was never theirs to begin with. The repairman who taught it to me told me they hated when customers knew about it because it meant they couldn't charge to come out and flip a switch. So there it is, laid out plain. One corded phone in a drawer. One backup battery you ask for by name. One little gray box you know how to open. 20 minutes, under $50, and no landlord, no contractor, no fresh start required. That's the reliability of your grandmother's phone, rebuilt inside the house you already own, this weekend. But equipment is only half the fight, therefore we have to talk about the other half, the part that hits your wallet every single month, because this is where the real money has been quietly walking out your door for years. Let me ask you something. What are you paying every month just to have a phone? $40? $60? $140 for the bundle with the channels you don't watch and the data you don't use? Now here's the receipt that doesn't add up. There is a federal program on the books right now that will knock a chunk off that bill, or in some cases cover a basic phone entirely. And the majority of the people who qualify for it have never used it because nobody selling you a phone has any reason on earth to mention it. It's called Lifeline, and it is not some new handout. This is the part that matters. Lifeline was created in 1985 under President Reagan and expanded in 1997. It came out of an old American idea baked into the law all the way back in the Communications Act of 1934, the idea that every American, rich or poor, city or farm, deserves to be able to pick up a phone and reach help. Universal service, they called it. It's the same principle that strung copper wire out to farmhouses that would never turn a profit because the country decided a phone was not a luxury, it was a lifeline. Hence the name. For decades, Lifeline gives a monthly discount toward phone or internet service for people who qualify, and older Americans on fixed incomes very often qualify and never realize it. If you're on Medicaid, or you get certain veterans benefits, or supplemental security income, or your income is under a certain line, you may well be eligible. The discount is real money every month, and there are providers who build a basic plan around it so your out-of-pocket lands at little or nothing. Now here's why your blood should be up. The people who most need this, older folks stretching a Social Security check, are the least likely to have ever heard the word lifeline, because the whole system runs on you not knowing. The salesman at the counter makes his living selling you the bigger plan, not the government discount. So a benefit designed 40 years ago to keep a phone in the hand of every American just sits there, unclaimed, while people cut their grocery budget to pay a phone bill they could have cut in half. And I'll tell you what happened recently that makes this worse. There was a companion program, a bigger internet discount that a lot of families leaned on, and the funding for it ran dry and it wound down. Millions of households lost that help, which means right now, this summer, there are older Americans getting hit with a phone and internet bill that suddenly jumped at the exact moment they can least afford it, who still don't know that the older program, Lifeline, is still standing and might catch them. That's the fifth change hitting pensioners right now, and it's the one nobody's talking about because it's the one that could actually save you money instead of costing you more. So, the practical piece. Look up Lifeline, the federal program, and check the eligibility. You apply through the National Verifier, and once you're approved, you take that to a participating provider. It takes an afternoon, and it survives the storms that killed the bigger program because it's older and it's woven right into the law. The thing built in the Reagan years is still standing while the shiny new thing collapsed. Sit with that for a second, because it's the whole lesson of this channel in one sentence. The old thing was built to last, the new thing was built to sell, which brings me to the last document, the one I've been holding back, the one that ties every thread of this together. I saved it for you because it's the piece that proves the old way isn't just nostalgia, it's still available. It never actually died. Somebody kept it alive. Remember that Western Electric Model 500 from 1949, the near indestructible phone that ran on the line itself and worked in any blackout? Here's what almost nobody realizes. You can still buy a brand new corded telephone built on that exact same simple principle today. Not a fragile antique, a new one. Basic corded phones sold right now use the same fundamental design. They draw their power from the line, and they'll ring and dial when your whole neighborhood is dark. For about $15 to $25, you can hold the same reliability an American family had in 1949, when a man in a suit made more of them than any company on the planet. And here's the trick that turns it from a nice idea into a genuine safety net, the combination I promised you at the start. You pair that cheap corded phone with a working phone line that has power behind it. If you still have any copper landline in your area, hold on to it with both hands and put a corded phone on it, because that line carries its own power from the central office and can run for days when the grid is down. If you're already on the internet-based service, then you get that backup battery I told you to ask for by name, and you keep the corded phone plugged into the jacket feeds. Either way, you've rebuilt the one thing they took from you. A phone that works when everything else has failed. Now let me show you why this is more than convenience. Because I dug up the cases that make it real. In storm after storm, the copper-corded setups were the ones still calling out for help after the cell towers had gone silent and the internet boxes had gone dark. Emergency officials in more than one disaster have quietly urged people to keep a corded landline for exactly this reason. There are documented times when the only line out of a flooded or burned out area, the only way a trapped person reached a 911 operator, was an old corded phone on a copper line that just refused to quit. That's not a sales pitch. That's the historical record, written in the aftermath of real disasters. And the beauty of it, the thing that ought to make you smile after all this, is how small the fix is. The most reliable emergency phone in America is not the $1,000 device that needs charging and updating and a monthly plan. It's a $20 corded phone the direct descendant of a 1949 design, plugged into a line with a battery behind it, sitting in a drawer waiting for the day you need it. The knowledge existed. They buried it under decades of upgrades and shutdowns and shiny new bills, but it was never actually gone. It was just waiting for somebody to open the ledger and point at it. So this weekend, here's your whole checklist, and it costs less than 1 month of the bill they've been charging you. Buy one basic corded phone and put it in a drawer. Call your provider and say, "I want the backup battery for my phone service." Find the little gray box on your outside wall and learn the test jack. And look up Lifeline, the program from 1985, and see if it can cut your bill. 4 steps. Under $100 all in, and for many of you, far less. And when the next storm rolls through and the street goes black, you'll pick up that handset and hear the same steady dial tone your grandmother heard, and you'll know something your neighbors don't. That's the thing they can't crush in a warehouse. The knowing. Here's what I want you to carry away from all this, and it's not really about telephones at all. They took something that was built to protect you, something nearly free and nearly unbreakable, and they replaced it with something fragile that bills you every month, and they called it moving forward. And you were never told you had a choice. Today you got the choice back. That's not a small thing. That's a piece of your independence they were counting on you to forget. If you're the kind of person who always suspected the old way worked better, who felt in your gut that they don't make things to last anymore because lasting doesn't pay them, then you already know this channel is for you. You're not being paranoid. You're being paid attention to, finally, by somebody who saw how the sausage gets made and decided you deserve to see it too. Now I want to hear from you. And I mean this, because this audience knows things I couldn't fit in one video. Tell me in the comments, did your family have one of those old corded phones on the wall, and did it get you through a blackout you still remember? Give me the year and the storm if you can. And tell me this, are you watching me right now on your television in the living room or on the phone in your hand? I read these, and I want to know who's out there. Drop it in the comments below. Don't just think it, type it. This crowd is quiet, and the quiet ones are the ones with the best stories, so speak up. And if any part of this opened your eyes, come stand with the rest of us who are digging this buried American know-how back up, one forgotten trick at a time. This isn't a channel so much as it's a bunch of us refusing to forget what worked. Next time, I'm going to open the ledger on the water heater in your basement, and the simple thing the old-timers did to it that cut their bill nearly in half, the thing the installer will never tell you because he wants you buying a new one. That one's going to make you look at your utility bill in a whole new way. Stay with me, and I'll show you the proof. That was the overview. If you'd like the rest, I go through the corded line survival kit part by part inside the Practical Ways circle. Have your own question? You ask me, and a real person answers you myself. Never a machine. And you won't be doing it alone. Thousands of practical folks like you are already inside. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen. It takes a minute, and you can cancel any time with one click. No risk at all.